Welcome back to Sports by GSMC Podcast Network. I am your host, Jeremy Lapidus. If you are just tuning in, we just finished going over Trevor Lawrence and his brand new $55 million 5-year contract. $200 million of that is guaranteed, total of $275 million. That is a lot of money well spent, in my opinion. In this segment, though, we are going to move out of the world of the NFL, talk a little bit about some NHL as we hit Game 3 of the NHL Stanley Cup Finals. The Panthers versus the Oilers. The Panthers take a 3-0 series lead behind Sergei Bobrovsky as the Oilers make a mad dash to come back in that third period, fall just short, losing that game 4-3. We'll talk about that, everything that went through in that game, and what we can expect as the series is on the brink of ending. But before we get into that, remember that if you would like to be an even bigger part of the show than you already are, all you need to do is go to gsmcpodcast.net. Leave a tip or donation with a message in it. That message should pop up on the bottom of the screen for you, me, and everybody else around the world to see. If you do have a burning question about sports, anything at all, go ahead and leave that in the comments. I will get to it as soon as I possibly can. Appreciate everything that you guys do give. Appreciate you guys sticking around, talking some sports with me here on a beautiful Friday afternoon. But like I was saying, we are going to get into the world of hockey. The Panthers and the Oilers continuing their Stanley Cup Finals series, and much like there's a lot of parallels between the Celtics, Mavs, and the hockey series here between the Panthers and the Oilers. It's also 3-0 here. The Panthers, who have the better team comparably to versus the best player, which is, again, a very similar situation there. Connor McDavid and the Oilers are pushed to the brink, down 3-0, in danger of being swept. This would be the first ever cup for the Florida Panthers. Something very impressive after making it to the cup final last year, only winning one game. They had before these last two seasons, they had never won a game in the cup. They got swept their first time in there, gentlemen swept last time, and now they are on the verge of sweeping. And all of it goes on the back of Sergei Bobrovsky. Sergei Bobrovsky, the Panthers goalie, had an incredible game. You look at the numbers, the Oilers played the game that they wanted to play, especially in the first and third period. They played the game they wanted to play. And that second period is the one that really killed them. They gave up a bunch of, they turned the puck over a little bit too much there in that second period. But, the penalty kill for both of these teams has been incredible. Right? The Florida Panthers have killed 42 of their last 44 penalties, which is where the Oilers really like to make that difference. That's where they like to take their stand. That's really where they take their advantage because they have Draisaitl, they have McDavid, they have Kane, they have Bouchard, they have this great offensive firepower team. And special teams is really where that takes over. And that's not to discount their special team defense, their penalty kill. They have only allowed one penalty goal. They've only given up one goal on their penalty kill in the last 30 some attempts. It's been crazy how good these two teams have been at the penalty kill, and it's mostly because these two teams have great power plays, and a lot of that on one end goes to Sergei Bobrovsky, and team defense from the Oilers has been very impressive to me. Obviously, that second period is where they got the letdown. They got punched in the gut. They give up those. They give up those 3 goals. There, go down 4-1, and then they have to make that. They try to make that big comeback attempt there in the third period. They fall just short. They're able to get a goal about halfway through the third period off of a nice feed inside, and then they get a snipe from the top, tip in, to tie the game up, or to get within 1 goal with about 5 minutes left. And then the Panthers locked in, right? They got a little less lackadaisical on defense, and they made it really hard for Stuart Skinner, the goalie of the Oilers, to get off of the ice there. They made it very tough for him to get off the ice. The 6-on-5 one-man advantage for taking your goalie off the ice. they weren't able to get him off until there was less than a minute left in the third period, so they didn't have that many great opportunities down there. But that third period and that first period, it shows you that this Oilers team is a team that deserves to be here. This is a team that has everything it needs to continue to compete in this series. Now, coming back from 3-0 is very hard. Near impossible, right? It's never happened in the NBA. It's happened a couple times in the NHL, never in the finals, though. So it's not impossible, but Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl have been playing great hockey. And this series, much like the NBA series, should be closer. And it's just because Sergei Bobrovsky, the goalie for the Panthers, is playing otherworldly hockey right now. He stole Game 3. He stole Game 1. Especially he stole Game 1. Game 1, the Panthers got outplayed tremendously, and they were still able to pull out a victory there. A shutout victory, actually. A game they win 3-0. A game that they probably, again, should not have won, but Sergei Bobrovsky stands on his head, steals a goal, steals a game, does it again here, a little less so in Game 3 here, but he still kind of steals the game. Again, that second period was huge for the Florida Panthers to be able to build that cushion of a lead before, the Oilers got desperate there in that third period and really started applying more pressure. This is an Oilers team that, as we've seen, they've played 9 periods of hockey so far. The Oilers have won 5 of them, and yet they haven't won the game. And this speaks to the way that hockey is. Sometimes you might be the better team. Sometimes you might have the better players. But, sometimes you're going up against a hot goalie. And at the end of the day, if you are going up against a brick wall that covers the whole net, you're not going to get anything in. And that is what the Oilers have run into. Sergei Bobrovsky has been a difference maker. I expected him to steal a game, maybe 2. He's already stolen 2, and we're only 3 games into this series. They've pushed the Oilers to the brink. Elimination on their home ice. This is the first time that they've been in the Stanley Cup Finals since 2006. The Oilers have, and the Oilers are of a very deep tradition of hockey. Obviously, they had Wayne Gretzky, the great one, on their team back in the 80s. They won 4 straight. This is a team with lots of history, lots of cup experience, and this is the first time they've been here in almost 20 years. There hasn't been a cup held by a Canadian team in almost 20 years. It's been an incredibly long time since the cup stayed up north, and it doesn't look like that's going to change this time. A lot of people thought it might have been due to travel that the Oilers were struggling there in Florida, especially in Game 2. They kind of got bodied in Game 2. But Game 1, they came out and they really did dominate. This is a series that should be close, could be 2-1 Oilers right now, but instead it's 3-0 Panthers, and I don't think this series deserves to be a sweep. I think that the fans up in Canada, up there in Edmonton, deserve to feel a win up in their homestand, and I think they will get one. I think this series goes back to Florida, and that's just going to be a little bit too much. I think the Oilers will take Game 4 here, and taking Game 4 is going to be massive for them, obviously, but, overall, this Oilers team has had a great run, and unfortunately, it's going to end without a cup. This is not the end of the road for them. They still have their core. They can continue to get better, learn from what worked and learn from what didn't. They have a recipe for success. If they can get, and not to say anything against Stuart Skinner, because Stuart Skinner has played really incredible on this run, better than he usually does. Usually he's just kind of an average goalie. He's played above average hockey, which is the reason that they've gotten here. He's not the only reason, but when you combine above average goaltending with high octane offense and high effort defense that the Oilers have been playing with when they get hot, it's a recipe for success. So they know what they need to do to win. And now they just need to continue to press the pedal to the metal, hope they can get back soon. You always have a chance as long as Conor McGregor is on your team. And he will win a cup eventually. I guarantee it. Conor McGregor will win a cup at some point in his career. He's too talented of a player to not win a cup. Whether that's with the whether that's with the Oilers, whether that's with Edmonton, or whether that's with some other team a couple years down the line, it's he's going to get a cup. This just isn't the year, unfortunately. They ran into a Florida team that was hungry after coming off a loss in the Stanley Cup Finals last year, and Florida is going to host its first cup in its franchise history. So again, it's not over yet. I still think that the Oilers will win Game 4, send the Florida Panthers back to Game 5 in Florida, in Sunrise, Florida, and we'll see what happens there. Anything can happen once you get a little bit of momentum, especially in hockey. Hockey is such a game of momentum swings that, you can knock the wind out of someone's sails and you can win 4 straight easy. And this Oilers team is a team that can do it. So this isn't over for the series yet, but it is something that you have to seriously consider looking to next season soon. But it has been a really fun series so far. I hope it continues. Game 4 is, I believe, tomorrow. So we'll talk about that on Monday a little bit, whether the series continues or not. We'll do a whole recap of the Stanley Cup Finals. But in our next segment, we are going to move into the world of baseball, talk a little bit about our Friday MLB Power Rankings. It's been 1 week. I've got updating power rankings for you. A little bit of moving and shaking in the middle, not too much at the top. We'll talk a little bit about the continued domination of the top teams in the MLB and everything else that's going on in the world of baseball. So stick around for that. We'll be right back here on Sports by GSMC Podcast Network.